Good afternoon, everybody. Ayushi, Hiral, Zarna. Very good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon, Arman. Right, so it's 3 p.m. and we are all set to begin with our today's webinar. A very warm welcome to all our participants present here today. Successful technology entrepreneurship requires a good idea, smart founders, strong funding, and the proper exit strategy. Most entrepreneurs can't navigate the startup journey alone. They face many demanding requirements, beginning with a viable startup concept based on a competitive idea and considerable research, which should include extensive interviews with potential customers. Developing the correct fit between your product and its market is crucial. Without that fit, your startup will falter no matter how much funding you secure. Watch our expert condense her specialized knowledge and expertise into this comprehensive topic and help launching and sustaining a startup. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2022 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic Startup to Exit, all about investments. To know more about HRA and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. Request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Ms. Vandana Tolani, founder and CEO, Covento. Vandana had her own family office in Singapore and Jakarta. She worked as an investment banker and advisor to family offices and angel investors in Jakarta, Indonesia, helping startups from a diverse background. After 15 years of staying in Singapore and Jakarta, she came back to India. That is when Vandana created Covento. Today, Convento is one of the most well-known boutique investment banks in India, led by a female founder. She is also a venture advisor with Loyal VC, the in-seed-led Canadian VC fund, having a core portfolio of over 160 investments in more than 35 countries. She is also a partner with a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. She relates to 300 plus investors globally, picking up global deals while being sector agnostic. The ticket size is $1 to $50 million. Vandana has been awarded as one of the top 10 women leaders in the Wealth Management 2021, and her brand Convento comes under the top 10 women entrepreneur brands, along with Nika, top 10 consulting firms by a female founder and woman entrepreneur of the year 2021. In 2022, she was awarded as top 10 futuristic woman. In February 2022, Convento got awarded by Kiran Bedi at Tech Startup Conclave 2022 for the best financial institutions for supporting startups organized by ICRA, All India Council of Robotics and Automation. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. I now hand over the platform to Ms. Vandana Tolani. Over to you, Ms. Vandana.
So thank you, Faisal, for the wonderful introduction. First of all, I want to thank Faisal, Hiral, and Peterson for having me here on this platform and giving me the opportunity to come and speak some words here and give a master class. And thank you for the audience who have made it here and being a patient listener. Without any delay, I would just start sharing my screen. I have a PPT to show, and the topic for today is Startup to Exit. So please give me a heads up once my screen is visible.
There's a blank page coming.
Yeah, the first slide has an issue. 1 second, yeah, let me just reshare it. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Let me know if you're able to see my screen now.
Yes, now we can see.
Okay. So the topic is Startup to Exit. Why I chose this topic was there is lots going on in the startup world, along with investments, and a lot of startups need to understand what goes on inside the investment field. Who are these people? What is the exact way to pitch your deal? And how to go about the your startup and get your investments in the right manner. So I'm skipping this slide because my intro has already been given. This slide also I'm skipping. Essentially, it's all about what Convanto has done. Now, this is the session and this is how it flows. Investment resource planning, best practices for fundraise, key resources for fundraise, how to raise multiple rounds of funds, and decoding the investor's mind. And then there is a surprise session as well. Now, let's see what are the phases of investment. So there is a lot of notion around what are the different phases of investment. At the concept stage, it is usually a seed or an angel funding that one needs to go to. At an optimized stage, one needs to ask for a growth capital. At a building stage, one needs to ask for a pre-series A and a series A. And for a scaling the company, one needs to ask for a series B. So essentially, there are lots of stages of funding, and I think people don't really understand what are these stages. Hence, we have written about these stages here on the first slide. So then is investment resource and planning. What not to do? Let's talk about the mistakes first while you're planning your investments. There are 3 big mistakes made by early stage entrepreneurs. Now, the mistake number 1 is building something that nobody wants to buy because they didn't talk enough to their customers. So you'll be wasting your time and money if you're making a hovercraft, but customers want a little red wagon. Now, what happens is that many at times your target audience itself is, the wrong audience that you are talking to. You don't know what you're building. You have not taken advice from mentors. You don't have a proper advisor on board, a CFO on board. The team is not complementary enough, and hence you start by building something that nobody wants to buy. So the tip for this is keep the design simple. And I have written this: Steve Jobs is the god of design, and UI and UX attractive, and you listen to your customers first. Now, what's the mistake number 2 is creating a homogeneous team. The right team is critical, and you need to have a diversity of culture, age, and thought. It's important always to have a complementary team that complements each other, along with having a diversified culture. Helps a lot, in building up your startup, and investors do look at the team before they go into investment. So what happens is usually everybody wants to wear multiple hats, and in order to have a design and creative thinking, one needs to get into a mode of a right team, essentially. Now, let's see mistake number 3. The mistake 3 is misunderstanding the market opportunity. Could you just allow me a minute? I think the lights just went off. Just a second, I'll be back.
Request all participants to please hang on. Our speaker will be there in a minute.
Sorry, the lights just went out. So apologies for this inconvenience. I'll just present my screen again. So the mistake number 3 is misunderstanding the market opportunity and competitors. Just because there's no direct competitor doesn't mean someone with more money can adjust and beat you. So know what's there on the periphery. Being much ahead of time means you'll be selling a lot of rupees on developing the markets and educating people. So don't ever do that. So this is very essential, to understand this mistake that is made by early stage entrepreneurs, and hence a lot of startups fail to move ahead of time. Make sure you do a lot of market survey and brainstorm with the right industry experts in order to get the business model right, because once you start the organization, then there is no looking back, and it can burn lakhs of rupees and waste a lot of precious and valuable time of yours. Like I've always said in all my talks, make sure that your business plan has been vetted by somebody senior from the industry, whether it's a mentor, whether it's an investment banker. Make sure you have the right advisory on board. Make sure you have a CFO on board, because many founders, they don't know how to manage their own money. We've had cases where founders have got investments, they have burned the money to buy a car or burn the money to treat cancer. So these kind of practices should be avoided. The investors' hard-earned money is essentially given for you to multiply it and get him some returns, along with you build your organization. It is not for personal use. So if you're making these mistakes with market opportunity, not getting your business plan vetted, not having an advisor on board, you'll be wasting a lot of time. Then comes in fundraise best practices to be followed religiously. One is fundraising is built on relationships, so start early. Now, if you see, I have 20 years of experience in this field, but it took me 20 years to build strong relationships with 300 plus global investors, and these are MDs of the funds. Essentially, investments happen on relationship basis. Because I have the right kind of relationships with these funds, I can bring them any deal and get it closed very fast because of my relationships. Similarly, if in your network you have these good relationships with the funds and you have built up these relationships with the MDs of the fund, then the cracking of the deal is much easier for you, because relationships and networking does matter. Now, it's important that you need to have at least 100 plus investors in your system. So in case you are a founder and you're too busy with building your product, you can hire the right kind of investment banker and have the value add from what they bring with their investors. Now, let your work talk for yourself. Your customers are your brand ambassadors. Let your work speak for yourself. For instance, you don't have to prove a point all the time to anybody. It's very, very important that your work speaks for yourself, essentially. Please let me know if I'm audible or visible. And the fourth thing is, the venture capital community is a small community. Is the screen hanging?
Yes, we are still having the best practices.
Okay. Okay, please let me know if the screen freezes or something. So the venture capital community is a small community. Don't burn bridges. What many people do is they tend to burn their bridges, and because their approach is totally wrong in this investment system. Build passion and attitude into your pitch every day. CEOs are the powerhouse for their employees. Follow up 3 times with the VCs, and don't do it over every 2 days, because they get about 1,000 deals in their system. They don't really have time to go through all the deals. Investors don't spend more than 90 seconds on a pitch deck. And so a continuous follow-up will just make them irritated. So there is a way in which you should follow up, and it's very, very important also to build up your story. Now, essentially, your story is what sells in the market. It's like when you are selling chocolates or a hamper just before Diwali or Christmas or any festival. It is wrapped in a beautiful basket, and then it is sold in the market, which gets attracted by the customers. Similarly, your pitch decks, your financial models, your business plan have to be packaged in such a way that sells in the market. I think the screen is hanging.
You can reshare, Ms. Indra, in case.
Yeah, just a second. Just reshare.
Hello, Ms. Indra? Dear participants, the speaker will be coming back in a minute. Request you to please hang on. Dear participants, request you to please bear with us. The speaker will be with us in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, everybody. There was a glitch in my computer. I'm back and I'm resharing my screen again.
Yeah, sure, Miss.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, I've finished this. So I was here essentially, I think. Uh, so essentially, these are some of the best practices that we need to follow when we are doing the fundraise. Now, when it comes to the story part, it's very, very important that you build your story. What happens is that essentially it's your pitch deck, your financial model, and your business plan that sells with these investors. So if you've not built a creative story, your idea, your startup, or the funding that you need, you might have difficulties in that stage. Now let's see some other pointers that are here. Pre-qualify your investor. Now, pre-qualifies investors to maximize everyone's um, quick time. So quickly establish the investor's investment criteria. And before going into a full investor pitch, find out if an investor can provide the minimum capital you're looking for and if they invest in your sector. Now, what happens is, that many a times you have not qualified your investor. So if it's a food startup, you're reaching out to a tech investor. If it's a tech startup, you're reaching out to a food investor. You yourself don't have an understanding of what is the investor's background. Just like the way the investor is doing some due diligence on you, it's very important that you have done your due diligence on the investor. We had a founder who had come to us with a term sheet in which one of the clauses was that he had to pay 54 lakhs as a write-off charges to the fund. When they brought the term sheet to me, I helped them identify that, this is a fake term sheet and they should not sign such things because no investor will ask you any write-off charges. In fact, once they give you the term sheet, they have to put in the funds in your account. So also, you have to find out what's the ticket size and sectors of these investors. It's very essential that you pre-qualify your investor. That's what I essentially meant. And don't run your business like raising money is the main objective. Now, this is very, very important because when you're running your business only to raise money, then you're not bootstrapping. You're not focusing on anything, on your startup at all. Your focus is only to raise money because you want to raise money and then burn that money that you're getting from the investors. And when I say focus, what I mean is that it's very essential to have your mind in the center. Why I recommend everybody to read the book The Power of the Subconscious Mind, because if your mind is not in center, you will not be able to work with a calm mind and attract the right opportunities in your direction. That's when you need to focus a lot. Also decide if you want to sell your metrics or sell a big vision. Depending on your business and the stage of your business, you may need to decide whether it is better to pitch, or your metrics, or strong metrics that's eating the competition, that may not allow you to sell your dream as well. So you have to decide, what is it that you're selling, your metrics or your vision, and or is there a balance between the two? Now, identify a lead investor. It's very important that you have identified a lead investor, because many a times investors are giving conditional term sheets. Why is a conditional term sheet given? To get so that you can get a lead investor, essentially because that investor doesn't fully believe in your deal, and wants you to get the first lead investor. Only then they will put in the balance money. And develop the investors pipeline and track interactions. It's important that you do that. With a lot of new people, you need to maintain a record and track of the people on daily basis, especially during conferences and seminars. Drop an email to them saying a casual hello and telling them a bit about yourself and your business. Remember, most of the people don't do it, and you will have a relative edge and advantage. And also keep a track in order to refer to the last conversation you had with the people, since then many people have moved out of the fund or changed jobs. Why I say so? Because there are many founders that have reached out to the wrong people in the fund who have left jobs. So when they come to me, we already know who has left the job, which fund has been exhausted, and whom they are reaching out is actually not the correct person, is just a junior person in the investors team. So it's very important. And also, our actual capital is the human capital, not the financial capital. This I keep saying. So you need to build your human capital in the right manner, which is essentially networking and building relationships is the key to it. Now, we also see that due diligence is an important part. Due diligence is an important part, and it's very important to build a virtual data room. That's the new thing. There is on a link basis, you can have a virtual data room where you can look up your due diligence and also put all the documents in order. Now, what we as investment bankers do is we share a list of due diligence documents with the startup that signs up with us, so that they don't waste time at the time of term sheet, 2 weeks of time essentially to collect those documents. And if they put it in a virtual data room, essentially they just have to share it in a link form to the investor and get the work done very fast. Now, use proper communication protocols while you're speaking to these investors. Essentially, what I mean here is, what happens is that, we project our pitch in the wrong manner to many investors. I have seen when startups are pitching to the fund, they don't ask the fund, on a 30 minutes call, that what is it exactly they are looking at, and quickly, share their story. Instead, they just, go straight on the valuation and ask the investor questions aggressively, which puts them off. The elevator pitch, preparation is a must and practice is God. So the elevator pitch is your ability to deliver your core offering, business model, market opportunity in a 30-second time frame. If at the end of an elevator pitch, the investor asks you, so what do you do exactly? Know that your pitch isn't effective and needs rework. It's important that you have discussed it, the elevator pitch, with your investment banker, any other investor that is on board, advisor on board, before you even speak about it. It's like, how the business development team who is selling your product essentially is given a pitch to follow, that this is how you need to sell your product. The same way you are selling your company. So make sure your elevator pitch is really, really done well. Company one pager, a very useful document essentially used during pitch events. It is an extended version of the elevator pitch. Use this as a handout for the judges to learn more about you and jot down their questions while you're pitching. It's a document which is slightly longer and contains key ideas, opportunities, and target market details. We often ask our startups to give us the one pager because at times investors don't have time to go through the pitch decks or your video pitch decks or your financial models. And in that case scenario, the one pager comes in handy. Tip, a corporate one pager usually includes the stages of the company, the revenue, traction, the market sector, and the amount raised, your existing investors. These are the things that a one pager contains, in case you're confused what a one pager looks like. And people who create pitch decks for you can also help you with the creating the one pager as well. Now, point number 18 is, I have seen pitch decks with 40 slides, with 400 slides, and not cutting things short and in a layman's language. The pitch deck itself is a self-driving document for an investor to understand all key aspects of the business without presence of the founder. A typical deck will touch upon areas like the problem, solution, the product, the market size, competition, team, financial projections, and how much you're looking to raise essentially. Additionally, data on the customer traction, user feedback can be added. So I think the pitch deck's overall slide size should be below 20 slides. Ideally, 12 to 14 slides is good. And these are living documents which require constant, change in it and improvements every time you learn something new from a potential investor. So make sure that you keep updating it and it is up to the mark at all times. Then key resources for the fundraise. Nowadays, all the investors, they keep asking for an Excel MIS, which, records the following information. LinkedIn connects, so what is your MIS? It's a unit metrics. Essentially, the number crunching is done in a unit metrics. If you want to look at a sample of a unit metrics, please reach out to me. And investors do ask for an MIS because they only want to understand the numbers. So if already you have prepared one MIS which has your numbers in it, it will be easier for you, to get your investments. Then second comes the LinkedIn Connects, who can introduce you to the Investor Connects. Make sure your LinkedIn is updated. Your connects on the LinkedIn can help you introduce you to the right Investor Connects. Third comes the CEO and founders of similar startups who can introduce you to the investors. Now, CEOs and founders of similar startups usually are very helpful, and they will help you connect to the investors if your LinkedIn is in a proper order. Investment, pitch events, and trade conference contacts, angel networks, accelerators, incubators, that focus on the sweet spot. Mark those VCs where you directly have an in, target partners in these firms who have led investment in similar sector before. Why so? Because they understand your sector. If they don't understand your sector, they will not be able to add as much as value as you want them to add. You can also shortlist the investor and identify whether that investor should act as a lead investor on. It's very important that there are many investors that are not acting as a lead investor. So if you cannot identify them, please hire the right kind of investment bankers who can help you out with the same. Investment size is important, like I spoke before, and people whom you have interacted within the investment firm, and who are your prior co-investors, and what are your investor relationships. It's very important that you have identified these things. Now, financial planning and raising multiple rounds of funds. Now, planning what to do at each stage. The survival, so these are the stages: survival, early revenue, early growth, growth and scale stage. And then there's the second column is need. So in the survival stage, you have to monitor your burn rate and plan your cash flows. In the early revenue stage, you need to do your revenue forecasting and plan your marketing and sales funnel. In the early growth stage, you need to plan your cost planning and plan a high level budget. At the stage of growth, you need to focus more on decentralization and plan your operation plans. And at the stage of scale, you need real-time iteration and a dynamic planning. This kind of financial planning will help you reach your goal faster. Now, decoding the mind of investors. 7 ways VCs think completely different than you and how to win their trust. Now, let's see potential, versus risk, and optimism versus skepticism. An entrepreneur thinks about the potential and opportunity for their business first. They take a giant leap of faith that they can solve a problem they see and it will result in a business model that works. So it's the believer's mindset. A venture capitalist thinks about the biggest risks for their business first. They are like detectives searching for clues and staying neutral until they have built up enough data to form a strong point of view. Now, an entrepreneur is naturally optimistic, sometimes, to fault about the future because of the believer's mindset. And a VC looks forward with a healthy dose of, skepticism, because they understand that costs, roadblocks, time required likely will be higher than the entrepreneur anticipates. So, these are some things that you need to keep in mind. Edge versus outcome. An entrepreneur's mind centers around their team, product, customers, growth, and maintaining a competitive edge most of the days. And a venture capitalist focus on the speed of learning, progress, financials, and potential outcome in most days. Deep understanding versus broad view. An entrepreneur has a deep and focused understanding of their industry vertical and the stage of their company, focusing on developing a detailed strategy to reach success. A venture capitalist has a broad view of various industries and stages of the companies, focusing on macro patterns and behaviors that lead to success. Now, deep emotion versus grounded. An entrepreneur is all in on one business. They live and breathe this business daily, and it can mean a deep emotional connection to what's happening in the business. A venture capitalist has a portfolio of companies they support, and they expect that only 1 or 2 of the investments will be a breakout success. Because of this, a venture capitalist maintains a more surface level and less emotional connection to the business, which can something bring a more grounded point of view at critical moments. So then I've added here, grow fast or die slow. This is one thing. And valuation, why I've written about it is essentially we had a founder where his CA had done a valuation of 150 crores. When we sat with all his documents, it turned out to be that his valuation was only 70 crores. When we tried to explain him, he refused to understand, because his CA wanted to keep him happy and put that valuation across. Now, because this amount went into the founder's head, he would not believe that his valuation is much lower. And it landed up getting him no investments, because essentially investors also understand that, throwing up an unreasonable valuation cannot get you the right kind of investments. Now, this was the surprise session that I was talking about. Please do read the book Startup to Exit. It will help you, because many people do ask me what books to read. It's a proper guide which will help you understand what goes inside a startup, how you need to start up with your investments, and how you can reach the exit stage with the investor in the right professional manner. Now, start with why. When you're starting a company, or you've already started a company, it's essential that you start with why always out of most things. And this book explains how to run your business, and start with the why always. It will help you grow your business very well. So this book, Beyond Entrepreneurship, helps you turning your business into an enduring great company. I would recommend all of you to read this book. Then Diamonds in the Dust is another book that I would recommend. Why I've put a spiritual book, Power of the Subconscious Mind. While you're running your business or going into investments, it's important that you have, you are mindful, you have a spiritual and a calm mind, and you attract things in the right manner through your subconscious mind. Then the Lean Startup also is a very good book. It helps you run your business, and essentially you'll be able to help your startup grow and get the right kind of investments. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now for audience to ask questions.
So before we move into the Q&A session, we will be initiating the poll. I request all the participants to kindly share your feedback. While doing so, request all participants to kindly post their questions in the chat window. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiry about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details, name and session attended in an email to the email ID provided in the chat window. Please ensure you do this by end of this month. We will email the e-certificates to you based on the details received. So, Ms. Vandana, we have received some of the questions from the registrations.
Yeah.
So, how do I test my startup viability in current market condition? Is there any specific evaluation method that can help me understand the potential of my startup and growth opportunities?
Yeah, so the first thing is, please get a good business plan done by a professional. My company also makes these documents, and then get it vetted by a professional, a senior mentor in the industry. This will give you a clarity about your own business, as well as it will help you, get into the market in the right direction. So, this is the first step towards it. Also, talk to a lot of investment bankers and ask them what is trending. Essentially, if you look up some of my talks, I have also spoken about the trending things that are going on. EdTech has slowed down. I want to tell all of you this. So when you are into an EdTech opportunity, please do take advice from somebody. FinTech has slowed down. Legal tech is coming up. Deep tech is always there. So, find out the right sectors and then get into this.
There's one more question. As per the recent study by some institutes, too many startups come in every day, and of them, majority exits in a very short term. Why this happens?
See, the thing is that everybody is getting into this herd mentality and just getting into the startup ecosystem without understanding the nitty-gritties of it. So essentially, what happens is that when you do such things, you fall into this trap, and your startups fail because you have not understood what you want to do. Neither you can explain to the investors what you can do, and you have burnt all the money, and their startup has eventually failed. Why the startups fail is firstly because there's a herd mentality to just get into entrepreneurship without understanding, what is the kind of business that you need to do. Burning the money, not there are many founders that don't know how to manage their money, and they have not hired their financial officers who can help them manage the money and guide them. Look, don't burn by putting it too much into marketing, or maybe you're targeting the wrong audience. So these things are very essential. So that is why startups are failing. And also, if I see, if one edtech opens, thousand of edtechs are opening in the same manner. If one fintech has opened, the same kind of fintech is opening. So investors also, they have their own portfolio companies of the same sector where they've invested. So because it is a conflict of interest or a competitive space, they don't want to do repetition. They want something disruptive always.
Nicely answered, Ms. Vandana. One more question. We'll just take a last question and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
How can we create a legacy business in long term? What all things we should keep in mind?
That's a very good question. Firstly, you need to be patient, persistent, and consistent with what you're doing in order to create a legacy. You need to have a lot of clarity in your own mind as to what you're doing. Plan your finances well, market your product extremely well, position yourself in the market well. Focus on all the productive things and not on the negatives most of the time. Especially women founders, they tend to lose their confidence, and they want to step down of a certain thing that they are building up. So I think it's important that you keep moving in the right direction. If you see that there is revenue coming in, you are moving in the right direction, and you are able to bootstrap, even though you are moving slow, it's okay, but you still need to move ahead. But if you see there is no revenue coming up and you feel like you need to pivot a bit, you should pivot a bit. And that is why I say that investors do look for humble founders. When I say humble, I don't mean being submissive. I mean that, you should be able to pivot. You have tried something for 6 months. You're not getting any revenue at all. You know that this is not going to work out. So you need to change something or pivot somewhere so that things start working out for you and you start making revenues. Essentially, all it boils down is to making revenues. If you're not making revenues and you're just burning money and you're not going in any direction, then and you're not scaling up, that means you're losing the battle here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vandana. Thank you, Ms. Vandana, for an insightful and intriguing session. Some of the key takeaways from this session are phases of investment, 3 big mistakes, best practices to be followed, It has been a pleasure being with you today. I'm sure our participants had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, GACIA, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Talgro, PLE, and WICCI for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker and our participants for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass on the 28th of April, a session by Lieutenant Commander Nitika Rai, Senior Technology Consultant, EY, on the topic Shared Leadership. Request you to kindly register for this event at the link mentioned in the chat window. Also, do join the Dialogue 2022 WhatsApp chat group through the invite shared in the chat window. That's it from our today's webinar. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Thank you, Ms. Vandana.
Thank you for your precious time and sorry for the technical glitches and
No
the
issue.
lights going off. Thank you.
No issue. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.